Hi, I'm Jesse Wright, and I'm standing at Passaic County Arts Center. Grateful to have the opportunity to present Verses Over the Waves. This is a survey of books and paintings associated with the books, spanning approximately a decade, the through line of which would be a poetic meditation on being in a state of descent and moving to a state of ascension, all the while seeking home. They began somewhat like journals while commuting back and forth between New York City, using reclaimed and salvaged materials from the street, repurposed as a formal aesthetic exercise. From there, I continued with the random imagery, but then aligned them with an intentional narrative arc. There was a desire as a painter to see some of the mark of my painting enter the books, so they increased more and more in being mixed media. I myself am mixed race, mixed heritage, Jamaican and American, drawing from that. And from there, the books became, when we look at history, we see from the stone tablet to papyrus to the printing press to artist books, that the book as an object itself can be extremely communicative, much in the way the messages or the words inside them can be communicated. So I began to actually build these books where there's several formats like accordion books, gatefold books to explore. Much of this was done in response to doing large-scale paintings. My influences in painting vary from those in the books. We can look to the history of painting from Kerry James Marshall to Egon Schiele to Alice Neal to Basquiat to more contemporary artists that we look to the energy of like Titus Kaphar and Jordan Castile and the gravitas and the content that they carry in their paintings, to the colors of Bisa Butler. Whereas with the books, I might have been looking more to collage that you might find from Hannah Hock to Ramar Bearden, to Deborah Roberts, a contemporary artist who's really crushing it right now in the art world. But again, it began in response to doing large-scale paintings. So I was working as a design consultant as well as living as an artist next to a set design company that had gone out of business. And I didn't want the paints to have culture shock coming into my studio, so I figured I should work big. At the same time, 9/11 had happened, Afghan and Iraqi wars, big topics had to be addressed. So I was working 8 by 8 foot mixed media, although right now I understand we are in a radical reevaluation of what Ta-Nehisi Coates would say is the treatment of the vessel that is the black body. And I appreciate that it could speak to that, but it was originally intended as a piece of ascension and release and a celebration of the community and color that I was involved in. But speaking to the care of that vessel, so we have packaging symbols on the bottom as a fragile package. The cardstock here says lifetime frame with a thank you, and then that leaving and ascending. All of the paintings in this show are either split in two or in diptych, two pieces, speaking to be a front and back cover. When I was making these books, I found out how to make the pages, but I didn't know how to bind the cover. So what I would do is put two frame paintings together with a hinge and build a box like you see here, and this book would actually be housed within that as the front and back cover. With this book, I wanted to speak to and give tribute to my father. This is called Vietnam Can't Kill Kenny's Cloud 9. He had journeyed through significant post-traumatic stress syndrome following the Vietnam War. When I mentioned that I chose intentional pieces, there were two images that are the basis for this book. There's a photo of him in Vietnam, as seen here, as well as his return from Vietnam. So this book traverses his return, his crisis, and then his eventual healing. So amidst the poetry, we see a picture of him return from Vietnam, and then crashing into a flashback, going back to the war. and the explosion and crisis, and then his eventual return. This is one of the poppies he would distribute as a veteran, and onward to his healing. So in continuing with the accordion books, this one is made entirely out of wood with metal hinges holding it together. It was inspired to promote the story of mission trips that I had been on. We worked on building a school in Haiti, Kempefo, Haiti. We worked at an orphanage in Honduras. We built a school in Mexico, ¿Qué está pasando, mi gente? We worked at a displacement camp in Gulu, Uganda. Putting in a solar-powered water purification system and a medical center. While I'm not Muslim, I do admire how in Islamic art they show the complexity of God through pattern. So these faces are all made out of patterns that speak to things and conversations that had gone on those trips, and the story is told actually in their face. The other figures, my wife, daughter, sister, mother, speak to the nurturing of our close and local relationships, but that's connected to the goal to bring that nurturing to our global community as well. So this youth, Lawasa, I had met at an orphanage in Kampala, Uganda, following the work in the displacement camp. The painting over here is Lawasa has a dream, and it speaks to his hopes, wishes, and dreams in his journey in life. So bringing it all home, just my sketchbook, where I was documenting the youths that I had met in the mission field. And moved on to my family in Jamaica and all the color and richness that brings. And if I had my dad in here, I've gotta have my mom in here. And those paintings actually reflect where I am now, more expressive, just in celebrating that color and richness that comes from that island of Jamaica and telling her story.